On any map of the world, there is a place where two oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific, reach for one another across a slender thread of land. This is the Isthmus of Panama. For centuries, this sliver of Earth stood as an impassable wall, a geographical impasse that dictated the course of global navigation. Ships and their crews faced a brutal choice: brave the long, treacherous voyage around the continent's southern tip, Cape Horn, and risk being swallowed by the fury of the southern seas, or undertake the arduous process of unloading cargo, hauling it through dense, unforgiving jungle, and reloading it onto another vessel on the opposite coast. Both paths were paved with peril, expense, and excruciating delay. It was here, at this natural choke point, that humanity conceived of an ambition of almost geological scale: to pierce the planet itself, not with a tunnel, but with a flowing, navigable channel of water. This was a venture destined to redefine global commerce, rewrite military strategy, and forever alter the fate of an entire region. The Panama Canal was not born of romantic fancy. It was forged from the cold calculus of necessity. To shorten the world's shipping lanes was to conquer time. And in the great game of empires, time was wealth. Speed was power. The ability to move goods and naval fleets from one ocean to the another in a matter of days, rather than weeks, was a prize beyond measure. The first to attempt this monumental task were the French in the late 19th century, emboldened by their triumph at Suez. But Panama was not Suez. This was no arid, level desert waiting to be carved. This was a living, hostile world, a realm of suffocating jungle, of torrential rains that could swell rivers into raging torrents in mere hours, of hillsides that collapsed in perpetual landslides. And lurking within this green hell was an invisible, far more lethal enemy: tropical disease. Yellow fever and malaria, carried by the ubiquitous mosquito, swept through the labor camps with merciless efficiency, decimating the workforce. For years, men toiled in inhuman conditions, armed with limited technology and shackled to a fatally flawed design. Asif hills and rock bisected the isthmus, and the constant, violent rains turned any excavation into an unstable river of mud. The costs spiraled into absurdity. The death toll climbed into the thousands. The French enterprise bled out, bankrupt and broken, leaving behind a landscape littered with rusting machinery and haunted by the ghosts of its ambition. The project seemed cursed. Then, at the dawn of the 20th century, the United States turned its gaze southward. For this rising power, the canal was more than a commercial shortcut. It was an instrument of global dominion, the key to deploying a two-ocean navy with unprecedented speed. Washington fomented a revolution, carving the new nation of Panama from the side of Colombia. In return, the United States was granted sovereign control over a zone of land stretching from coast to coast, the right to build, operate, and defend the canal in perpetuity. But political will and financial might were not enough. The Americans still faced the same two colossal adversaries: nature and disease. They first waged a revolutionary war on the microscopic enemy, draining swamps and eradicating the mosquito, a public health campaign on a scale never before witnessed. Then, they abandoned the failed sea-level plan. The winning idea was a stroke of genius: a canal of locks, a colossal stairway of water. Ships would not cut through the continent, they would climb over it. They would be lifted, step by step, up to a vast artificial lake created at the summit of the isthmus, and then gently lowered back down to the sea on the other side. It stands today not merely as a marvel of engineering, but as a profound statement. It is a testament, carved in earth and rock, to the relentless human drive to bend the very geography of the planet to its will. The first great leap forward was not one of force, but of philosophy. It was a drastic reduction in the sheer volume of excavation, born from a revolutionary idea: to work with the terrain, rather than wage war against it, for every single meter of progress. But before the Earth could be conquered, a second, more insidious battle had to be won: the war against disease. Here, a new discipline entered the story, an often overlooked hero of this epic undertaking: sanitary engineering. The Americans unleashed a massive, systematic campaign against the mosquito and its breeding grounds. It was a multi-front assault involving the draining of swamps, the meticulous clearing of land, city-wide fumigation, the installation of screens, and constant vigilant inspections. Today, these measures seem self-evident. At the turn of the 20th century, they were anything but. The successful reduction of yellow fever and malaria was more than a medical triumph. It was the fundamental precondition for the Canal's very existence. Without this breakthrough, the workforce would have continued to perish at unsustainable rates, and no construction site, no matter how well equipped, could have possibly been maintained. With the invisible enemy held at bay, the most arduous phase of the physical struggle began, the chapter that would define the Panama Canal as we know it. One must imagine what it means to sever a chain of hills in the heart of a tropical climate, where torrential rains transform the world into a primordial sea of mud. The symbol of this monumental battle is a great wound carved into the rock, known today as the Culebra Cut. It is an enormous trench hewn through notoriously unstable slopes. Every day was a symphony of industrial might and human grit. Explosives tore around of it, all were the trains. The railway lines were the circulatory system of the entire project, a ceaseless conveyor carrying away millions of cubic meters of earth and rock, day and night, without pause. Yet, the mountain fought back. The slopes collapsed, again and again. Landslides would undo weeks of labor in a matter of minutes. Men would dig and clear, only to watch the earth reclaim its territory. It was a repetitive, soul-crushing struggle, a war of attrition that cost immeasurable time, resources, and human lives. The very rains that liquefied the slopes of Culebra also fed a far greater power. Panama was not merely a land to be excavated, it was a watershed to be tamed. The local rivers, chief among them the wild and unpredictable Chagres, were forces of nature. In the rainy season, they could swell into devastating torrents, capable of sweeping away everything in their path. The solution was an idea of breathtaking scale and audacity. Instead of fighting the river, they would capture it. They would build a colossal dam, creating an immense artificial lake, Lake Gatun. This was not simply a reservoir, it was to become an integral part of the canal itself. The central, elevated section of the waterway would be a vast, navigable lake. This single stroke of genius transformed a catastrophic problem into a vital resource. The new lake would absorb and control the seasonal floods, while simultaneously providing the millions of gallons of fresh water required to operate the locks. For the locks are thirsty machines. Each time a vessel ascends or descends the great water staircase, enormous chambers must be filled or emptied. The true elegance of the system lies in its simplicity. The water flows by the force of gravity alone, with no need for pumps. It is a principle as old as the world, applied on a scale previously unimaginable. A ship glides into a concrete chamber, and immense steel gates seal shut behind it. Through a network of subterranean culverts and valves, water is either admitted from the level above or drained to the level below. In this controlled, deliberate fashion, a vessel weighing tens of thousands of tons is lifted or lowered, step by step, across the spine of a continent. A testament not to the brute force of an empire, but to its capacity to harness the fundamental laws of nature itself. Slowly, imperceptibly, the steel leviathan begins its ascent, or its descent. The movement is so deliberate, so stable, it belies the immense forces at play as millions of gallons of water shift beneath its hull. Then, with a groan of colossal machinery, the forward gate parts, revealing the next chamber in this liquid staircase. The ship glides forward into the next stage of its improbable journey across a continent. This is a sequence, a ritual of engineering. It is an elevator, but one made not of steel cables, but of water itself. The total elevation change is a mere 26 meters, a figure that sounds modest, almost trivial, until one witnesses it applied to a fully laden cargo vessel, a floating city block stretching hundreds of meters in length. Here, in the confines of the concrete canyon, precision is not a goal, it is the only condition for passage. A single miscalculation, a momentary lapse in trajectory within the narrow chamber could lead to a catastrophic bottleneck, silencing this artery of global trade. For much of its history, this delicate ballet was choreographed by powerful locomotives running on rails alongside the locks. Known colloquially as moulers or mules, these machines were the true pilots of the canal. Tethered to the ship by thick steel cables, they held the vessel in a constant, precise tension, guiding it and keeping it perfectly centered. Today, while some methods have evolved, the core principle remains an obsession with millimeter-level control, for these spaces were designed at the absolute limit of possibility. This is not merely a channel carved through the earth, it is a complex, living industrial ecosystem, a symphony where the elemental forces of water and gravity are harnessed by human ingenuity, a place where engineering and logistics converge on a scale that defies imagination. When the Panama Canal was finally completed and opened to traffic in 1914, it did not simply change the world. It shattered the existing map of maritime commerce. The arduous, months-long voyage around the treacherous Cape Horn was rendered obsolete overnight. The routes between the eastern and western seaboards of the Americas were slashed, and the vast expanses of the Pacific and the Atlantic found a direct, navigable passage. Ports, shipping lines, and entire supply chains reconfigured themselves around this new planetary shortcut. A new era of global connectivity had begun. But the canal was never a static object, a finished monument. From its first day, it has been defined by a fundamental limitation: the size of the ships it can accommodate. For decades, this limitation dictated the very design of global shipping. An entire class of vessel, the Panamax, was born. Ships built to the maximum dimensions that could just barely squeeze through the original locks. Then, the relentless growth of global trade and the advent of ever larger container ships brought the canal to a critical juncture. It had to evolve or face obsolescence. The solution was as audacious as the original construction: a massive expansion culminating in the inauguration of new, larger locks in 2016. This rebirth allowed for the transit of far more capacious vessels, the giants now known as Neo-Panamax. The canal had upgraded its own DNA, ensuring its relevance for a new century. And yet, this monument to human power operates on a delicate, almost fragile equilibrium. Its true fuel is not diesel, but fresh water. Without sufficient rainfall, without adequate reserves in the vast artificial lakes that feed the locks, the number of daily transits can be throttled. Every single transit consumes a torrent of fresh water that is ultimately lost to the sea. This makes water management the central existential challenge of the canal's operation. It also makes the canal an unwitting thermometer of our planet's health. When the rains fail, when climatic cycles shift, the very rules of this global game are forced to change. There is another dimension, one often ignored in the shadow of its engineering marvels. The Panama Canal is not merely a conduit for ships, it is a fulcrum of geopolitical power. To control this passage is to control the tempo, the cost, and the flow of international commerce. For most of the 20th century, that control rested with Panama, was fully transferred to Panama on the last day of 1999. Since then, managed by the Panama Canal Authority, it has become a cornerstone of the nation's economy and a symbol of its sovereignty. Before, there was only a wall of earth between two oceans, a continental spine of rock and jungle that held the world's two greatest bodies of water apart. Humanity dared to sever that spine, replacing it not with a void, but with a bridge of water. A testament not only to what we can build, but to the intricate and often precarious systems we create to master our world. Here, across the spine of a continent, humanity carved a corridor of water, a path born of colossal excavation where dams tamed wild rivers into vast artificial lakes and gigantic locks became stairways for steel titans. This was engineering pushed beyond its limits, a series of audacious decisions made under immense pressure, in a jungle that does not forgive. But the price of this ambition was paid not in currency alone. It was paid in thousands of human lives, lost to landslides, to accidents, and to the silent scourges of malaria and yellow fever. It is a story of extreme labor, a testament to the immense cost of bending the planet to our will. Today, the machine operates with relentless precision. A vessel, having booked its passage, is guided into the system. Chamber by chamber, the locks raise the colossal ship, lifting it 85 feet to navigate the man-made expanse of Gatun Lake. After traversing the excavated cuts, it begins its descent on the opposite side, lowered by the same forces of water and gravity until it is released back into the open ocean. This transit, a journey of several hours, erases thousands of miles and weeks of perilous sea travel. It is an artificial wound inflicted upon the land, but it is also the ultimate proof of what occurs when a species declares that an obstacle will no longer be an obstacle. Two oceans, separated by nature for millennia, were united by a single defiant choice. And that choice, to this day, determines who arrives first, who pays less, and who ultimately dominates the world's most vital trade routes.